Hello, I'm Alison Heath, the host of the EMF Summit. I'd like to talk about dirty electricity and asthma. Asthma is an incurable condition. It's an incurable disease. And yet, a lot of people are recovering from asthma. It kind of makes you wonder, is there a cause? Is there something that's causing asthma that we don't know about, that we haven't considered? And the interesting part of this is that dirty electricity, when it's removed, asthma conditions just disappear. So go figure. Now, what's dirty electricity, you may be asking? We've had dirty electricity since the first electrification started. This is when the grid of electricity rolled out through society. So it's very interesting the way that worked, because Dr. Samuel Milham, he's a world famous epidemiologist, which means he studies the spread of disease and the causation. So he looked at all of the death certificates of the rural countryside before they got electrification. And he noticed the disease levels, they didn't have all the modern diseases. And now they've just shot up like crazy. And we have all these incredible diseases happening. ADHD, lupus, leukemia, brain tumors, all these different things have started since we had electrification. There's something called a 60 hertz and a 60 sine wave, because our electricity in North America is 60 hertz. And it's a smooth wave that you can do trigonometry equations on and so on. We also have this dirty electricity that runs along like this. Well, Dave Stetzer, who was an electrical engineer for the Air Force, he did a study in this school. And in that school, there were 37 students that were using inhalers. And this is an elementary school. So these students were going to the nurse and getting their inhaler and taking these steroids, which can't be good for you. What happened was he went in and cleaned up the dirty electricity, cleaned up all that jagged, transient electricity that happens on the wires. And it was truly amazing what happened, because one mother, she was shocked because, she was actually irate because her son hadn't brought home his inhaler to have it replaced. It needed a new cartridge in it. And she called the school, and the nurse said, well, he hasn't been in for his inhaler. And she noticed that none of the other 37 students had either. Well, it was pretty fascinating, because what happened was that all these students got off of their inhalers for the whole rest of their school. Even when they graduated through high school and so on, they were off completely. No more inhaler. It just wasn't necessary for them. This really begs us to look at the question, how dirty is our home? And I'm not talking about dust bunnies. I'm talking about how much dirty electricity is in our home. How can we go about cleaning that up? Even your kitchen appliances. All those kitchen appliances, your blender, your juicer, your whatever you may have on the counter, is giving off dirty electricity, even when it isn't turned on. The first thing you can do is unplug the appliances when you're not using them. And if you have them on an extension cord, just turn off the extension cord. We need to look deeply into this. Asthma is just one of the symptoms that are happening. There's a lot more. There's so many more symptoms. In fact, in that school, the principal of the school had gone through an MRI, which even medical imaging gives a lot of electromagnetic radiation. She went in for her MRI, and she had lesions in her brain for MS, and she was seriously ill. Well, after they cleaned up the electricity in the school, she recovered. This is the tip of the iceberg. we really don't understand how much more we can do and how much more we need to do for our health. You see, it wasn't a big deal in the past because what was happening before was radio waves, TV, maybe you could get 5 channels or so on. There was, not that much electricity happening in the house. We had wringer washing machines back in the day and so on. Well, now, once the electricity became more stable, people started inventing more gadgets that we could use with it. We got more and more and more and more of this stuff, and it has just accumulated. And that's something, the accumulation of dirty electricity, which is ELF. So it's extremely low frequency. It's not heating the body. So it's non-thermal. It's not like a microwave oven that heats the food and so on. It's non-thermal. So there's no test for that. There's no measure for that. They have something called the SAR measure, SAR measure, which is the standard absorption rate. And it's how much you're absorbing the electromagnetic radiation. But they don't even consider ELF radiation to be a problem. And yet look at that school. 37 kids cured forever from asthma. A teacher, a principal of a school who was diagnosed with MS, cured. Now, I mean, that's a pretty good reason. And this is all documented too. So it's not anecdotal. It's documented. And we're going to have Dave Stetzer on speaking with us. We're going to have Dr. Sam Milham on speaking with us. We're going to have many of these experts. And as Dr. Ross Anderson said, it's kind of like Star Trek. We had these gadgets. We had these things going on our TV. We looked at it and we saw this little flip communicator that Captain Kirk had. And we went, oh my God, isn't that cool? It was a cell phone before there were cell phones. And then they had the little badge things, as Dr. Anderson was telling me about. You just press the little badge to communicate and so on. So we had all these things that we thought were the coolest things since sliced bread. And we thought, oh, wouldn't it be great if we have it? Now we have it. And we can't accept the fact that this is killing us. It's just so hard for us to understand that the rollout of smart meters and all of these things that are coming into our society are harming our health. And yet, for the sake of our children, we want to get rid of those baby monitors right out of the room. We want to change these things around. We want to start understanding the whole broad spectrum of EMF radiation. And let's start really looking at the ELF, the extremely low frequency radiation that we're exposed to in our dirty electricity, and start cleaning that up. There are filters that you can use. There's avoidance you can use. You can turn off and unplug appliances when you're not using them. Because so many of our modern day appliances, somehow they've created this trend where they're on all the time. They've got a little red light or a little green light that shows that they're on, or a little clock. And that means that they're constantly emitting dirty electricity. We don't want that anymore. We don't need that in our society. And awareness precedes action, so I encourage you to learn more about it. Come and join us on the EMF Summit and learn about what could be, I believe, the greatest health hazard to face us in our time. So I warmly welcome you. I hope to see you on the EMF Summit. In the meantime, let's make this the best year yet.